Hold on, I got a barking dog.
Woof, woof, woof. Who's a good dog? Rawr, rawr, rawr,
Good evening, Ashley.
rawr. Hi, Jay.
Hi, what's new?
Still kind of decompressing from my parents' visit, but I think we talked about some of my parents' visit on the last show, did we?
Oh, indeed, yeah.
Okay, all right.
I also got you to talk in depth about your hair and your plans to grow it out, but I've been doing the tiniest bit of research about other male to female transgender folks, and some of them wear wigs, and I wanted to know
Yes.
if that was something you'd even considered.
Yeah. That has been something I considered, yeah, yep.
And then what?
Well, I guess a good wig is like a few $100s, I suppose. I mean, though you can spend much
Really?
more.
What? I was expecting you to say much less.
Well, it depends. I mean, these are not like the wigs you pick up at Party City, which are
Mhm.
just like made out of polyester and old trash cans or whatever it is.
Right.
A good wig is one that is made out of typically hair. I mean, it may be, I don't know, camel hair or whatever, animal hair, or some of the very nice ones are made out of human hair.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, in part because those are what last the longest,
okay.
because you can wash them just like regular hair and
hmm
everything else. Yeah, it's something I considered, and I suppose procrastination usually doesn't pay off, but in this case it kind of did, just in the sense that in the time I was kind of pondering it over, thinking over the hair stuff, there had always been more immediate concerns of mine.
Okay.
So things like my parents' visit, or coming out of work, or laser hair removal, or what have you. So I always kind of had a few things on my plate that needed more attention, I guess. But at this point, my hair is actually kind of getting a bit longer, and so I wouldn't say that my hair is what's outing me at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, longer hair would be helpful, but
Okay. What sort of styles were you browsing?
like a bob, for instance, sort of
Okay.
like a
Yeah,
that kind of thing. So that was what I was considering.
those are pretty cute.
Yeah.
Would it have been your own color?
It probably would have been.
Not that you're rocking less than 3, from what I can tell at the moment.
And that's sort of the thing, is that you could almost ask, would it be rocking my natural color or the color my hair happens to be right now? Because this is not my natural hair color. My natural hair color is sort of a chocolate brown, maybe.
Oh, really? Wow, it's been a long time. It's hard to imagine.
I know. I mean, it still weirds me out when people refer to me as like the blonde girl or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, that is me.
That's cute.
And I mean, what I probably would have done is gone for something close to my apparent hair color, as it were.
Okay.
But then what I was kind of trying to figure out is, I mean, you can go to like a wig store, or you can buy wigs online. And online,
You don't really have to have a fitting for those, right? Because everybody has a same basic cranial shape.
I mean, it'll fit your head, but it's sort of
Yeah.
like buying glasses or something,
Oh, is
where
it? Okay.
it'll physically fit you, but the shape of it may or may not be complementary to the shape of your jaw and face.
Right.
And so on.
Okay.
So that was kind of one of the tricky parts, that on one hand I was kind of leaning toward mail order, but you kind of have to imagine your own head in the little pictures on the thumbnail thing.
Yeah.
Right.
They didn't have a upload a picture of your face tool?
No,
That's too
not
bad.
on the websites that I was looking at. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at this point, my hair is kind of, I don't know if it's out of the awkward stage yet, but it's, I feel like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, maybe.
Good.
Yeah. Because it's at the back, I mean, my hair is naturally sort of wavy and I blow dry it straight. Part of that is that once one's hair is longer, it's easier to blow dry straight.
Okay.
Shorter hair tends to curl more easily, at least for me. And so at the back, it had been at the point where it would curl even if I tried to make it to blow dry it straight. But I think I'm sort of getting to the point where it's long enough that I can blow dry it straight, even in the back. But
Cool.
we'll see. Yeah. So, yeah.
Every day you have more things to smile about, it sounds like.
Mostly. Yeah. That's sort of a good way to look at it.
Can we talk about clothing for a little while?
You bet.
We
yeah,
got
clothes.
a comment on the website at misgender.com a while ago, and it's lengthy, and it's a multi-part question. And I know
Oh, is it from Dinah?
I make those hard on you. So yes, it is from Dinah, and I'm just going to read the whole thing.
Hi, Dinah.
It would be really interesting to hear about your experience with clothing that is perceived as feminine or female. I'm guessing you might have had to go through some sorting out of, quote, is this about what turns me on or about who I am to the world, unquote, when you first began to think about crossing some traditional gender lines and looked around to see who else does that. Which makes me wonder what you thought at different times, I think she means in your life, as you've seen men dressing in women's clothing. There's a big range out there from the ridiculous, Monty Python's Pepper Potts and Big Mama, to fairly sensitive character acting, some of Dave Foley's female characters on Kids in the Hall, to the matter-of-fact, example given Eddie Izzard, to full trans characters like in The Crying Game. So, from what I'm recalling, you had suspicions about yourself as early as age 13 or so.
This is sort of a side note, but can we use the word other than suspicions? Because I'm not a criminal. It's not like I'm wanted for vandalism or...
No, but at the same time, you are the same person who said, oh, I don't detect any pepperoni on this pizza. So
okay, but pizza... I'm not a pizza, Jay. I'm just saying.
It was pretty early on in your life when you thought you might be transgender.
Yeah, a hunch or a whatever. Sure, yeah.
And it took you a really long time to come out to yourself, and that's perfectly fine. But during that gap, there were men dressing as women in all sorts of different situations. So what did you think when you encountered that sort of thing, given the range that Dinah eloquently described there?
I suppose on things like Monty Python or Saturday Night Live, some of the more ridiculous instances, I just took those in sort of the Shakespearean point of view, which is to say that sometimes they only have so many female actors and they just need some people to play female parts. So you just kind of repurpose your male characters and so, yeah.
Did you never feel like they were doing it for a laugh then?
I felt that they were doing the sketches for a laugh, but I didn't think that they were necessarily wearing that attire for a laugh.
Okay. Because there were no women in the group, although they did have women playing women sometimes on the show, but it was rare.
Right. Although I'm thinking about, say, the mid-90s Saturday Night Live as well, like the sketch with Chris Farley and Adam Sandler playing teenage girls, blah, blah, blah. There's probably more than one sketch in that situation, but yeah. What were some of those? It was Eddie Izzard.
The Kids in the Hall, it was given as an example being fairly sensitive. And there was The Crying Game. Right.
So I haven't actually seen The Crying Game.
Oh,
even though people have spoiled it for me over and over. Thanks a lot, society.
Yeah. There's a statute of limitations there.
No, I refute that. There's no statute of limitations.
Did you see Stargate?
No.
Oh, all right. Well, those are the two things that Jay Davidson has been in. He, I think, is a very feminine-looking man and managed to fool most of the country throughout most of the movie into thinking the character was a woman the whole time until the other main character, the lead male love interest, pulls down her pants and there's a penis and everybody in the country goes, whoa!
When I would encounter things like that, it was to me like someone was wearing a costume. Like when a character is playing Dracula and has a cape and some fangs or something.
Okay.
So it was something to wear and something that was unusual, but something that wasn't very common, I should say. But to me, I didn't find it to be it didn't shock me. It
Okay.
wasn't. I didn't see any discordance there. That's actually something where I'm curious about how cisgender people would react to those. Just since, because maybe for you there was some sense of dissonance or something that maybe made the scenes funnier or whatever. But for me, it's just, I mean, it was like a character wearing a costume in a play,
Yeah.
but it wasn't something that was outrageous to me, I guess.
I think in the case of Monty Python people dressing up as women, I felt the same way. They needed to have a woman in the scene, so they dressed up that way. And
right.
I felt the same way about the Kids in the Hall for the most part as well.
Sure.
I don't remember too many examples of it happening on Saturday Night Live. But then when you talk about things like The Crying Game and Eddie Izzard, even though those are in different categories, they're doing it for different reasons. But before we talk about that, did you, when you were initially encountering men dressing up as women for any reason, did you find yourself maybe jealous a little bit that they were in a position to be able to do that?
Oh, sure, yeah. I thought, hey, that seems like something fun to try.
Yeah.
And probably in the same sense, supposing your neighbor or one of your friends has a trampoline in their backyard.
Sure.
And you see him using that and you think, oh, that sounds like fun. That kind of looks like that could be fun.
Yeah.
I'd like to try that, but I don't have a trampoline, so I can't really do that. So that was sort of like what it was for me in the sense that it just seemed like a fun thing to try out because I hadn't tried that, but it wasn't, as you mentioned, I didn't quite have the means or what have you to do so.
Well, studying that metaphor a little bit, would you ever consider sneaking over their house while they were away and bouncing on the trampoline a little bit? I.e., did you ever, while you were growing up, before you came out to yourself, try on a skirt or a bra or, I don't know, even lacy gloves or high-heeled shoes or whatever?
Right.
Because I'm cisgender, as you mentioned, and almost totally straight from what I can tell. And I used to do that just for fun because my mom had fun clothes lying around.
Yeah, I would.
Do you have any memories like that?
Yeah, and like borrowing some of my mom's pantyhose and trying that on.
Okay.
Trying on her shoes, things like that.
How did it make you feel?
It was like it was like it fit for me. Like maybe you're shopping around for a new desk chair or something. And you go to a furniture store and you're sitting viewing various chairs and some of them seem fine or whatever. But then you get to the one chair and like, oh, this is the chair.
Okay.
It just, it feels like it's a good fit for you.
And even though you had that feeling, it's not something that you decided to do all the time.
No, mostly because I could only do so when my parents weren't around or what have you. So, and also at the time I hadn't figured out why it was a good fit for me because some of it was around the time when I was, for example, still figuring out the existence of transgender being a thing. So it felt like I was drawn to it, but I didn't really know why at first, I guess.
Okay. Well, that goes back to Dinah's question. Did you have to go through a sorting out in your own head trying to decide if it was something that simply turned you on or something that you wanted to be doing all the time? Did you want it to be a different person?
I suppose for people who go about cross-dressing, some of it may be an erotic thing or what have you. For me, though, it wasn't that. And it was almost boringly so.
Okay.
It was just... Because I would, for instance, maybe it was sometime after school or something, and I would like put some of the pantyhose on, and I would go and sit in my favorite chair and read a book or something.
Okay.
So it was just hanging out or...
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. It wasn't exactly like that for me when I would put on my, well, first of all, my parents are square dancers, so I want to think there was a lot of gingham. But there were these
Okay.
enormous fluffy petticoats. Like think of
Oh.
the bustle you might see in a period piece in Marie
Yeah.
Antoinette, France.
Sure. Sure.
They were that big, but all the way around.
Oh, okay.
And so I used to just walk around with that thing up to my neck, swishing and swishing. I think there are some
Oh,
pictures of
yeah.
that.
That sounds like
It's really
fun.
fun. Well, tell me about your experiences shopping in your new life, whether it's for something particularly ladylike or not. How have you noticed people maybe treating you differently? Do they hold the door open for you, for example, more than they used to?
There was an occasion a couple weeks back when I was going to a deli for dinner, and as I walked toward the door, a group of 3 or 4 middle-aged men arrived just a moment before I did, and once they noticed me, they gently stepped aside, and one of them held the door for me, which was on the one hand kind of nice in that it was recognizing my gender, but at the same time, I don't know how I feel about chivalry in general, in the sense that it
Mm-hmm.
implies that women are weaker than men. So,
Right.
but
My sister used to get pissed off when people, especially men, would try to do things for her, like open the
oh
car
sure,
door.
yeah,
Oh, she would get so
yeah.
mad.
I mean, people
Like
mean well,
make a
yeah,
scene mad. Yeah,
right.
certainly.
So let's see. So as far as other shopping stuff, a lot of the harder parts of shopping was early on, not just because I wasn't as far along with HRT and that kind of thing, but also because it was a chicken and the egg problem. Because I had a hard time passing because I didn't have all the right clothes yet, and I didn't have all the right clothes
Mm.
yet because I had a hard time passing. So
And you weren't wearing a wig.
yeah, but yeah,
I'm just needling you for
I
fun.
know. Anyway, so for instance, I went to Lucky Jean's store, and part of what I have the ability to do sometimes is to just will my way through things,
Mm.
and it's not something I can just pull out of a hat, but sometimes I'm able to force myself into a situation
Sure.
to a certain extent. So at the Lucky Jeans store, for example, I walked up to the counter or whatever, and I asked, would someone be able to help me pick out some styles that would be a good
Oh.
fit for me?
Oh wow. Okay.
And
Had you already tried picking something out for yourself? Did you do any kind of research online
no,
about what was fashionable these
well,
days?
the tough part is that okay, there are multiple styles in terms of straight leg or skinny leg or flared leg or boot leg or relaxed leg. So there's all that stuff. But then there's also the problem that women's clothes are sold in sizes, which are just arbitrary numbers.
Right.
So what I've learned now is that I'm oftentimes around a size 8, but depending on the store, it might be a size 6 occasionally. Sometimes I'm a size 10.
And this is something that somebody who was born the right gender, in this case a woman, would have learned over time, but is still kind of a surprise to you.
Well, it wasn't so much that it was a surprise, but I needed the help of someone at the Lucky Jeans store because their sizing wouldn't necessarily match up exactly to even any other jeans company's sizing.
Okay.
And so
I'm sorry to keep harping on this, but is this something that anybody shopping there would want to do?
if you hadn't shopped there before, it might be handy, just in the
At
sense...
that particular store, you mean, with that brand?
Yeah, in the sense that they could just... they're used to match up customers to sizes, and so they could help you find out what sizes would be a good fit for you. Although for women who've bought many other jeans, they may have a good feel for, okay, maybe I'm a 6 or an 8, and then just pick out those 2 or 3 from the rack. But in my case, I really wasn't too sure about how their sizings would line up. So I walked up to the counter and said, is there someone available that could help me pick out some styles? And one fellow said, sure, I'll help you. And so we started walking over to one half of the store. And I said, I'm also transgender, though, so I won't be shopping on this side of the store. Because he had walked to
Okay.
the men's area of the store.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I was just about to ask you, is it okay that it was a dude who decided to help you?
Yeah, it was fine, yeah. I mean, it was as if I had mentioned to him that there was a 30% chance of rain tomorrow.
Right.
It was hardly anything. Okay, and then walked over to the other
Mhm.
side of the store. And I found that merchants in general have sort of the profit motive, as it were. So
Mm.
for the most part, people are happy to sell you things because your money's as good as anyone else's.
Yeah.
And I've also found that clerks or staff people who are gay are oftentimes even more supportive, even though regular clerks have been pretty supportive too. So,
And is it your own gaydar that you're relying on to know that these people are gay, or do they make it obvious?
some of it's my gaydar, some of it's clothing styles, for example. In the sense that most straight cisgender men wear kind of boring clothes in terms of,
Yeah, we do.
I mean, a color palette of what? Like dark blue, brown, black, maybe an olive or something. Anyway, so I think this fellow had some clothes that he had some clothes that were not boring, and so I thought, But at any rate, it's hardly here or there. But
Okay.
he was very helpful. He helped me pick out some styles and sizes, and I would try them on, and he would say, is that too big or too small? And he helped me find a different size from the rack. So yeah, it was super.
And what did you learn from that first experience that influenced the way that you would shop afterward?
Part of what I learned is that clerks at stores are generally happy to help you, and as well that if your appearance may be androgynous or ambiguous, that you can just say that you're transgender, and that will often kind of break the ice. And okay, all right, I'll happy to help you out.
Okay.
Instead of, I don't know, beating around the bush or whatever.
Yeah. And are we right in thinking that the first ladies' room you went in was out in public somewhere? Clearly it wasn't at work.
Or was it?
Oh, dun, dun, dun.
So yeah, it was at work.
Oh.
Although not during the daytime. It was one of these things where there was some arbitrary deadline about, oh, we need this tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. Where, whatever. Anyway. So what I ended up doing was I actually ended up working till midnight at the office.
Wow.
Which is something I'm glad to say that I think I've only done that once at this particular job.
Right.
Yeah. And once it was around midnight, my guess is that probably the security guard at the front desk was the only person in the entire building.
Wow.
And so I thought, well, hey, I kind of need to pee. Let's give this a shot, because there was virtually no risk on my part, because I was probably the only person in the building.
Did you think that the decor might be different on the inside, or do you just want to feel like you belonged better?
No, I was pretty sure the decor would be the same. I mean, in the sense that the tile would be the same, and
yeah. I don't know. They tend to be more attractive. I've only been in a few.
Yeah. I mean, just if it were a department store, that might be a different story. But being just an office. So yeah, I used the ladies' room, and it was actually kind of terrifying, even though there was no one around. Just, I suppose just because it had been something that I've been thinking about for some time, but I had to keep telling myself to hold off on that, I guess.
Which was scarier, going to the ladies' room at the office with nobody in the building, or going up to a stranger and saying, "Can you help me pick out some clothes?"
Actually, the office ladies' room. The first time, anyway. Yeah.
How long after you left were you still nervous about it?
Oh, once I left the ladies' room.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the first time you used a ladies' room when there were actual people around?
So it was a conference I went to in June in Dallas for local web people. And it wasn't that I was dressed drastically different than when I would go out weeks prior, or that I looked necessarily drastically different, but there was some kind of there was a tipping point, as it were, that I finally had the top that fit me, and the jeans and the shoes and the purse. So I kind of had the whole package there. And so I didn't start thinking to myself, hey, I should try the ladies' room. What I thought to myself was, hey, I would feel really uncomfortable using the men's room.
I see.
And so I actually asked one of my friends at the conference, like, which bathroom should I use? And he said, well, I think you should use the ladies' room. And so at that point, I thought, well, I'm not sure how this is going to go, because I didn't know how well I passed at the time. And in fact, that's still something I struggle with, just since I see myself in the mirror many times a day. And so the various gradual changes are hard for me to notice. And so
you tweeted recently about how you kept being surprised to look down at work and see their boobs there.
Yeah.
Is it still surprising?
Yeah, sometimes. But it's a wonderful surprise, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you're at dinner and you look down at your plate and there's always ice cream.
Ooh.
It's like, ooh, ice cream! Yeah. But anyway, so at this conference, I wasn't sure exactly how well I passed, because part of the other thing is that there is no single you passed by this much or by this much kind of thing. Because a lot of it depends on, is someone having a conversation with you? Is someone seeing you from 3 feet away or 10 feet away or somewhere in between? And so I really wasn't sure, but what I did was, my friend Jenny was there. And I said, next time you need to use a laser, it would be all right if I went with you, sort of as like a buddy system kind of thing.
You wanted to hold it until it was more comfortable to go with someone?
Well, I didn't need to. It wasn't an emergency or anything.
Oh, okay.
No. But it was, we were midway through a panel.
Yeah. You were able to predict that there would be a good time coming up pretty soon.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. And so Jenny, being the nice, friendly person that she is, said, yeah, sure. No problem.
Okay.
So as would be little surprise to me going forward, there was a line at the ladies' room. And we waited in line, and it was fine, which was actually really nice. Yeah. And it was kind of funny because, well, being a tech conference, sometimes there aren't a lot of women, but at this one, there was a pretty good ratio of a pretty good balance. And one of the things I remember distinctly was sitting in the stall and looking to my right and seeing, obviously, the feet of someone else, but her toes are painted just like my toes are painted. And it felt a sense of camaraderie that, like, hey, it had been the first time I had been in the bathroom and encountered someone else whose toes are painted. So it's like, hey, I fit in here.
Right. That's adorable.
Yeah.
This is the last time I get to talk to you before Halloween, as we're recording.
Right.
Which is the sort of unofficial 2-year anniversary, as far as I'm concerned, for you, because it was when you decided to paint your nails.
Yeah, though I hadn't come out to myself yet, but I can see the, yeah, sure, yep.
What are your plans for Halloween?
part of me pondered whether it would be too ironic to go as a boy for Halloween. But I wasn't sure if it'd be too meta.
If you were going to dress up as a boy, what would you do with your hair? May I suggest slicking it back? Wall Street style.
Or Fonzie style?
Sure.
No, I don't think so. Sorry.
Okay.
I don't like goop in my hair. So I actually, I haven't really thought Halloween through, but
Okay.
I could wear. Well, I was thinking I could wear like sparkly nail polish, but that's like saying I could wear shoes to work tomorrow. It's like, oh, Ashley's wearing sparkly nail polish. Okay, it must be Wednesday.
Well, do you have a few minutes to teach me something ladylike?
Sure. Yeah.
Good.
So, over the past few weeks, I've had a couple makeup lessons. And one of the things that I learned was that I suppose the tissue underneath one's eyes is apparently quite delicate.
Oh.
And yet, it's an area where you may get dark circles or what have you. And so, you would apply concealer, what have you. So, there may be times where you may need to press in product or things like that. But what I've learned is that if you use your, I guess, pinky finger and what is it, the ring finger? If you use those two fingers to press in, or even your middle finger and ring finger, but what you can do is those are your weaker fingers in your hand.
Some people's middle fingers are pretty strong.
So then you may want to switch over to like the ring finger and pinky finger. But those muscles aren't as strong, and so just by the nature of your physical self, you can't press as hard, so it's kind of its own dampener. That's just sort of a little thing that if you're pressing concealer or whatever.
It had never occurred to me.
Yeah, handy. And so the other bit was this one is actually one that I'm still kind of trying out because it's something that I've inferred on my own, but I'm not sure how much it helps. But anyway, so this is about nails.
No way.
Yeah, way!
I can't believe there's something I haven't learned about nails.
Well, so it's not so much about the nail application process, but it's a strategy I've recently adopted as around trying to prevent one's nails from chipping.
Okay. So
one of the things I kept thinking to myself was, hey, with your nails, I always notice that my right hand ends up more chipped than my left. And so I happen to be right-handed, and so I figured, okay, it's because that's my dominant hand, and I'm doing things with it. And so I was watching a cooking show on, I think it was Food Network or maybe it was America's Test Kitchen. But what they had recommended was that if you're cutting, say, a carrot or a cucumber, what you can do is, let's say if this lipstick is like your cucumber, and you need to like chop. You may be tempted to hold it like this onto the cutting board. But then what can happen is if your knife slips, you can cut into your fingers, and that's bad. But what you can do, what they recommend, is you hold it sort of like this, with your kind of knuckles tucked under, so that you sort of get this wall here that the knife just kind of, even if you hit into it, you wouldn't really cut yourself.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, as a way of holding the cucumber or whatever item that you're slicing. So
that's one of those counterintuitive truths, I guess, because people expose the nail part because they think, well, that's harder. If I accidentally slip and hit them with a knife, I won't damage myself.
Well, and it's easier to grip things as with this kind of motion. That's easier to hold it down. But really, with the cutting board, you can hold enough force just through pressure this way that it's enough. Because all you're doing is keeping the cucumber or whatever from moving on the cutting board.
Okay.
Right. So
nice.
And well, I mean, that's sort of just a kind of very minor cooking thing. But as it's applicable to nails, though, what I've been trying is essentially reaching into my purse with my hand curled up like this.
Oh.
So that essentially I try to find my keys with just this part of my hand. And then once I do, I then uncurl it and then grasp them like that little hook thing that gives you like stuffed
The
teddy bears and
claw.
stuff. The claw. Yeah. Because part of what I was kind of trying to think through and figure out is that when I've been grasping for my keys, I would just kind of just mash hand into purse, and then I would find my keys, but it would be from just my hand ramming right into the metal of the keys.
Mm-hmm.
And if your nails are not painted, I suppose that doesn't make any difference. But with painted nails, that could make the difference. And so it sort of becomes a two-step process of what I'm trying to do is to grasp my hand, stuff in, and then just kind of feel around for the keys and then gently pull them upward. So it so happens that my right hand is still a little bit chipped, but it could be other things that I'm screwing up. It seems to be maybe slightly less chipped than they would have been, so it's hard to say.
Okay.
So it's sort of an ongoing experiment kind of thing. But
Yeah.
But I think it seems to be
How are you in general about learning new habits or breaking bad ones? Because I only know a couple things. Once I heard that it takes 21 days to learn a new habit.
I heard that somewhere, but that could be an old wives' tale.
So I'm imagining you reaching into your purse the quote-unquote normal way and then stopping yourself. I'm like, oh, nope, knuckles first.
Right.
Is it like that? Or do you happen to have a brain where you think far enough ahead where you're like, okay, in about 10 seconds, I'm going to be reaching into my purse. I better think about doing it the knuckle way.
So it's kind of weird that my brain will get to a point where it can mostly do something right, but every now and then it'll still do it the old way.
Yeah.
I mean, just one kind of far-off example. Back when I used to wear men's jeans, I would keep my phone in a pocket and my keys in a pen. And what I used to do was I would keep my phone in my left pocket along with my pen. And I had done that for several years. And then what I realized was, hey, wait a sec, maybe the pen could possibly scratch the screen of my phone. So I should probably put the pen in my right pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So it was maybe 7 or 8 years ago when I switched over to the right pocket.
Okay.
And even up until maybe 2 or 3 years ago, every now and then I would maybe have a receipt to sign or something. It's like, oh, where's my pen? I must have left it at home. And oh, wait, no, it's ended up in my left pocket. And I would have no recollection of having put it in there. So my brain can usually kind of adapt to things, although sometimes it kind of messes things up. But
you have a smartphone, right?
Yeah, it's pretty smart.
It has apps.
Sure.
Are you using one of those apps to like take a picture of yourself every day and then it makes a little video?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's called Every Day.
How long have you been doing it?
I've been doing that since, well, I can check here. Okay, I've been doing it since March.
Can you hold it up to the camera? Look at that hair grow.
Yep. Yeah.
That's really fun.
Yeah. And for some reason, it does this weird thing where at the end it goes right back to the beginning frame. So I don't know why it does that. But
Okay, I was wondering what happened there.
yeah. I don't know if that's a bug or if that's meant to say, hey, look how different you look or something.
Maybe. All right, we'll keep that up.
Yeah, sure.
Please. But I guess for right now, we'll say goodnight and then I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, that works for me.
Good night, sweetie.
Bye, Jay.